So when the book starts, my heroine, Cora Cash, is in her house, her mansion in Newport, Rhode Island, which is where all the super rich Americans lived at the end of the 19th century. And she's sitting there waiting for this ball that's being thrown in her honour by her mother, strapped into this thing called the spine straightener. And her mother insists that she wears this spine straightener for 2 hours every day so that she will have, you know, the absolute erect carriage and perfect posture that you needed to be the perfect kind of American princess. And this is actually based on a true story. There was a fabulously rich girl called Consuelo Vanderbilt, and her mother used to strap her into one of these things every day. And I love the idea of, you know, someone who's got everything in the world and yet they're a prisoner in their own house. I started writing this book in 2007 at the height of the boom, and the papers were full of millionaires, billionaires, Russian billionaires, Chinese billionaires, dot-com millionaires. And so the idea of sort of immense wealth seemed very sort of interesting. And then I started reading about what had happened sort of about 100 years ago, and how, you know, in America at the end of the 19th century, all these people became fantastically rich, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the Carnegies. I was interested in what happens to people when they become rich very quickly like that. And I was fascinated by the world of late 19th century America and Britain, and how different they were. Because what happened was that you got all these families in late 19th century America, the Gilded Age, becoming very, very rich. So they could have everything. They had their own, you know, they had mansions in Newport, you know, they built huge chateaux on Fifth Avenue, they had their own yachts, they had their own trains, they had everything you could ever want. The one thing they didn't have was what the British had in abundance. They didn't have titles, they didn't have royalty, they didn't have that whole sort of panoply of aristocratic kind of tradition and privilege. So I have here in my hands a book called Titled Americans, and this was published throughout the 1890s, every year. If you're an American heiress, you can sit in your mansion on Fifth Avenue and think, Viscount Somerton, the Earl of Stradbroke, Viscount Sudley, and then think, right, okay, come over, meet them. And there were people who made money sort of introducing American heiresses to impoverished English aristocrats, and then marry them. My heroine, Cora, when she marries the Duke of Wareham, she thinks everything's going to be fine because, you know, money can fix everything. You know, you can buy anything that you need or you want. And she likes the idea of being a duchess, but then as she kind of gets further into it, she realises that she's kind of married into a world of secrets and undercurrents and sort of rules that she doesn't quite understand. So she's a kind of innocent trapped in a world of European decadence. It is a coming-of-age novel. You know, Cora is a very powerful, optimistic presence, and she thinks that, you know, oh, she's married for love. The man she marries is the man she's fallen in love with, but what she doesn't realise is that he's not as simple and straightforward as she is. She has to make a choice between the new world and the old world. My American editor said that she thought that My Last Duchess was like Henry James without the boring bits, which is fantastically flattering. And I hope it's got even an umpteenth of Henry James's greatness. I'm a great admirer of James and of Edith Wharton, and I hope that I've taken some of the themes they've written about and perhaps given them a bit of a modern twist.